Hey folks, I'm Spencer and this is Cult Mania, and today we are reviewing Jodorowsky's The Holy Mountain, which is part of the new Jodorowsky box set from Arrow. I'll level with you folks. Trying to figure out how to review this has been boggling my mind as much as the film itself has. I feel like I need to be an art critic as well as a film critic, and no matter what I say, I feel like I'll do a disservice to what you'll see in this film. But I'm going to give it a go anyway. Jodorowsky would make this movie off the back of El Topo, his psychedelic western that had gone on to be a midnight movie hit. Given $1 million to work with, The Holy Mountain was pretty much manufactured from the start to become a cult classic, but it would go on to be much more than that. To me, the film is split into 3 distinct acts, so I'm going to treat each act as its own exhibit or instalment. Within these sections, the film has a very episodic structure, almost as if every set piece could be its own piece of art in a gallery, and you could just wander between each piece and still enjoy them. Following on from a striking title sequence in which Jodorowsky himself playing the alchemist shaves the head of 2 women in a very ritualistic manner, we are introduced to the thief as he's peeing himself. The thief gives off very Christ-like vibes, something that is played up more and more as this act continues. Sacrilege is a key theme in Jodorowsky's film, notably here in a sequence in which images of Christ are replicated and then destroyed. This act has a very dreamlike nature. Things just seem to happen without rhyme or reason. But as the film goes on, you just learn to accept it as the reality that the film takes place in. The film can feel also very nightmarish. As the thief travels through the city, he passes a lot of acts of violence, a lot of which seem to be based on atrocities that have occurred through history. But here those atrocities are turned into spectacle, not only for us as an audience, but for the characters within the film. Notably, a scene featuring lizards that is just absolutely bananas. This act ends when the thief ascends a tower to confront the alchemist, and in the process becomes enlightened in a certain way.
Alejandro Jodorowsky's The Holy Mountain.
Now, the second act of the film is based around the alchemist putting together a band of disciples to travel to the Holy Mountain of the film's title to gain immortality. This act of the film is all based around like these mini vignettes that introduce us to each one of those characters, each one being a representative from each planet within the solar system for some reason. I do think this section of the film has some of the most genius moments within the whole film, and I think the vignette structure allows Jodorowsky's ideas to come forward, be shown, and then they're gone again before they have time to outstay their welcome. Compared to the religious motifs used in the first act, this second act feels much more like an attack on capitalism and fascism. Almost to the point that it can feel a little bit too on the nose and a bit too obvious. But that can be forgiven with just how great some of the visuals are here. Treats in this section include psychedelic shotguns, a room full of testicles, and birds flying out of bullet wounds. Then we arrive at the final act of the film, which is all of the disciples along with the alchemist travelling to the Holy Mountain. Unfortunately, I do feel that this section is the weakest part of the film. Up until this point, the film's been filmed on sets that are so colourful and so creative. So much of this section takes place outdoors, and it just doesn't have that visual pop that the rest of the film has. Jodorowsky had actually planned to film the last part of this film as a documentary, which perhaps that explains all of the sort of more natural aspects of this part of the film. This is also the section of the film where the film's lack of narrative really hurts it, because this final ascent doesn't feel particularly engaging or like we want any of the characters to make this journey. That being said, the film really does pick up in the last 10 minutes, because the intensity of the film just goes from being like, oh, we're going, when we're going up. But the film does end with a sort of pun or a joke ending that you'll either really love or it's going to drive you up the wall and you'll just let out the biggest groan you could possibly think of. Despite the film's surreal and chaotic nature, it's incredibly well filmed. Shots are composed in a way that would make any film lecturer proud, and I think this is really important because I never felt like I was missing out on anything. I never felt like anything was too obscured. Everything gets its time on screen to be fully enjoyed and to be fully understood, at least to the degree that anyone can fully understand this film. What I didn't enjoy so much were a few points in the film that it all got a bit too real. Notably, there is a dogfight shown towards the end of the film, and I'm pretty sure it is a real dogfight in which the dogs were probably badly hurt. Similarly, the aforementioned lizard scene, I got the vibe that some of those lizards didn't make it out of the scene. There is also a scene where a goat is beheaded off screen, but then we see the goat's head sort of to the side and blood spurting out, and I don't know whether it was like a taxidermied goat or whether they literally just cut the goat's head off and then filmed it. I do know that Jodorowsky was almost beheaded in the same scene, so... This doesn't necessarily hurt the film. I mean, I would defend Cannibal Holocaust as being a great film that people should see. But I think it is worth putting in this review because the back of the box doesn't make any allusion to this, so if it's something you're sensitive to, just be warned. These points aside, I do think the film is one that you'll either really, really love or you're going to really, really hate. It took me quite a while to settle into the film's rhythm, and I think its lack of narrative did put me off to start with. But I think once I'd settled into it, I started to understand it a bit more, and I do think perhaps watching it a second time, knowing what I'm walking into, will yield better results. The film is technically fabulous, and I mean, I love the soundtrack. I'm very glad that Arrow have put that in this edition. It's almost as kaleidoscopic as the film itself. You've got chanting, there's some rock and roll tunes, it's just bizarre and amazing. Just be warned, this is not a normal film, this is not particularly a narrative film. It does feel like performance art or a dream or a meditation. And I think if you can tap into that, you're in for a hell of a ride.
To the conquest of death.
Anyway, that's just my opinion on the film. What do you think? Have you seen it? Do you want to see it now? Let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe so that you don't miss any more videos, and I'll see you next time.